Michael, and today I want to show you guys how to build a sales dashboard just like this inside of Google Sheets. Now, I've built a dashboard tutorial video in the past, but I didn't really go over some of the advanced features such as how to build a date range filter, status filters, some week over week change. These are the things I want to cover in this tutorial. And if you guys want to purchase this template, it's going to be available for sale, but if you guys just want to build it with me, you guys can just follow along with this tutorial. So I want to go over some of the features of this dashboard first. So this is a sales dashboard for a paper company, Dunder Mifflin here, and it's all powered by this tab here, right? So every time you make a sale, you basically enter some of this data in here, and it's going to automatically feed into a visual dashboard that'll help you basically look at everything at a glance and know exactly what's going on with your business. Now, at the top here, we have a call-out section with some scorecards, and it has kind of like our main metrics. So here it has the number of sales, the average sale, and the total sales here. The thing is, depending on what date range you select up here, this entire dashboard will update, right? So let's say I select April of 2021. What it's going to show you here is the latest month that you select. So in this case, it's April of the year 2021. It's going to show you the number of sales, the average sale, and the total sales. And then it's going to compare it against the month prior to that, which is March 2021. And it's going to show you the percent increase or decrease over that period. And if it's red, it'll be a decrease. If it's green, it'll be an increase. So let's try selecting a different month like March, for example. So March had an increase over February of 19% in the number of sales, 12% in average sales, and 34% in total sales. Down here, there is a time series chart that basically shows you how the total sales and the number of sales is trending over time. And again, everything in this page has to do with this date range here, okay? So from January 2020 to March 2021. And you'll see how everything is trending. Down here is a breakdown of the same three metrics over the same date range. We've added some color scaling formatting. So the darkest blue will be the highest number and the lightest blue will be the lowest number. This way you can just quickly look at it and see at a glance which months or which metrics to focus on. And then here we have a Sparkline chart that kind of shows you just visually which month has the highest number of total sales. And then at the very top here we have just a total of all three metrics over this entire date range. Now in this section here, these four charts are basically all the same charts. What this is the same three metrics but by salesperson, so you can see which salesperson is doing the best with total sales. You can see a pie chart here to see, for example, Dwight Schrute has 24% of the sales, Jim Halpert has 17%, and so on. And then this one is by product type. This one is by the referral channel, so depending on which lead source that the sale came from, you can see where most of your sales are coming from. So here you see 24% is coming from a client referral. And then this one is the current status of each sale. Again, this is done on this tab here, depending on which one you select for status, right? So in transit, and it's going to automatically update on this chart. Now, the really cool thing about this dashboard is that, let's say you only want to look at one sales agent's data, you can click here. So let's say you want to look at Dwight Schrute, select Dwight Schrute, and the entire dashboard is going to update and only show Dwight's sales. If you want to look at Dwight, and then you want to look at only the sales that have been delivered, just click under status delivered, and it's going to update and show you only his delivered numbers. So, and you can just delete whatever you want and it's going to automatically update everything. And then what we have here is a weekly dashboard. Now this is the exact same dashboard except that it's grouped by week. This can be helpful if your company does things by week, or just if you want to kind of track things on a weekly basis as well as a monthly basis, right? So you can basically see all of your numbers broken up by the week. So in this case, the week goes from a Sunday to a Saturday. So it ends. This is the week ending date, and you can just select the date range that you want to cover here. So let's say we want the last week to be April 24th, which is a Saturday. Everything is going to update automatically. Okay, now for how to build this. So like I said, everything is started with this sales data tab, right? And that's kind of the first thing that you want to start with, is how to enter in your data. Now I covered this in great detail in my last video, so I'm going to kind of just go over the basics on this. So what you basically want to do is you want to have each row be a sales record, right? And then every column is going to basically describe the attributes of that particular sale, as in which salesperson it is, what the sale amount is, what the commission percentage is, the commission amount, the product type that they're selling, the status, and the lead source, and then some notes. These are calculated columns that I'll go over throughout the video. So starting with the first step, you want to create a sales data tab, or it's like a data entry tab. So I'll call this sales data V2. And then you're going to select whatever columns you want to add onto your dashboard, whatever you want to track throughout your sale, right? And there's always got to be at least one date. A lot of times there's multiple dates, like a open date and then a close date, things like that. But for this particular dashboard, we're just going to have the date of the sale. So the date the sale was made. I'm going to copy all of these columns over, just all of the black ones. And then I'm going to paste just the values over, just like this. So, and then I'll wrap it. And then I am going to freeze it so that I can scroll and keep it here. And then I'll also bold this. Now I'm just going to paste in all of this fake data in so that I don't have to do it all over again, okay? Just so we have some data to play with. So I'm gonna copy everything, whoops. Sales data, and then I'm gonna paste everything. Going to change this format to the right date format. Okay, so now I have a bunch of fake data, right? But there's kind of like the salesperson should be a drop down. The sale amount should be a dollar amount. So let me show you guys how to do this. So let me click here and I'm going to change this to $1. What you also want to do now is you want to create a drop down menus tab. The reason for that is because you want to call this one drop downs V2. Because you want to make sure that whatever you want to track your dashboard by, so like all the statuses, all the referral channels, salesperson, product type, you want to make sure that everything is entered in the exact same way. Because if you just have people type it in without a drop-down menu, they might type it in differently each time. So they might say Dwight Schrute. If for one, they might just say Dwight or Dwight S. Using drop-down menus, we make sure that everyone enters in this important data the exact same way each time. So if you look at my drop-down menu here, okay, so this doesn't have to be here. You'll see that, let's see, there's a salesperson, lead source, product type, and a status, right? This is everything that we want to have drop-down menus. So let's start with the salesperson. So if I go to drop-downs, salesperson, and this is where you type in all of your sales agents, right? And every time you add a new one in, just keep adding it to this column, and it's going to automatically show up over here, and I'll show you guys how to connect that in a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my old sales agents from the old drop-down menu. So I have all of these sales agents, and then I'm going to paste it here. Okay, so and then you're going to go to wherever you're going to enter in your data, and let's highlight this entire column of salespeople all the way down to the very bottom, and then right-click, hit data validation, and then go into your range, and then just wherever you have that list of sales agents, just highlight all the way down. We want to go to the very bottom, so A2 all the way to A, okay? So this way, if you add in any new agents, it's going to automatically show up. So for example, let's say I start typing in Dwight, it'll show up. If I just do Dwight S, there's going to be a red flag that shows that it's an error. Let me zoom in a bit. And then if I were to add in anything new, let's say I were to add in Michael H here, now it's going to show up at the bottom just like this, okay? So you want to do this with all of your important columns that you want to track by. So let me just bold the first ones. And the second one I did was, I'm just going to copy this entire thing, and I'll show you what these ones are later. So these are all of the other ones. So I have lead source. So these are all my lead sources. They can either be a client referral, cold call, inbound lead, purchase leads, Ryan's website, yellow pages. This is wherever I can get all my leads from, okay? And these are entered multiple times. So let me delete this. And then same here. These were also entered in multiple times. Okay, perfect. So now I'm going to go to my lead source column. Same thing, highlight all the way down, right click it, whoops. So I'm gonna go to status, highlight it all the way down to the very bottom. you can change it here. So it goes to the very bottom, select the date range, make sure that it connects to the statuses, to the very bottom, and then let's go to lead source. Same thing. I go into really good detail in the last video, so I'm just going to kind of breeze through this part. You guys should already know how to use drop-down menus if you guys watched the other video. So all of my lead sources here. And then product type is the last one. Right click, data validation. And then I'm going to highlight all the product types. And if you guys have any new product types, just add it in as you go. Okay. So this is the current sales data. And then now for the commissions amount, right? So this is the way that I did it before. You can do it several ways, okay? So let's say you put in the total amount that the sale was worth, right? Now you can either, and then let's say there's a percentage that you want to enter in. So let's say you want to have 10%, you want to type in 10%, and then you want to just have the commission amount just automatically calculate 10% of this total amount. So what you want to do is you want to click on column J and change it to a percentage type, format as percent. So now it says 1000%, which is wrong. So let's delete it and just type in 10 again. Now let's say we do that, go into the commission amount and type in equals this times this column. So the commission percentage times the sales amount column. You can autofill this down if you want. It's only going to go down here. You technically want it to have it go down to the very bottom. If you're on a Mac, I just always press Command Shift down, all the way down, and then it goes all the way down, and then I press Command D. On a PC, it's with Control instead of Command, and this drags the formula all the way down. So now whenever you type in any percent, like 8%, it's going to automatically calculate this, right? So you can do it that way, or you can just type it in manually yourself. This is pretty simple. The only thing I would add is an if formula so that these zeros aren't always there. So I'm going to say if J2 is empty, leave it empty, otherwise perform this calculation. So now it's going to stay empty even though the formula is here. Now it's important to note that if you do it this way, if you kind of delete an entire column, this formula is going to delete from here, right? So now there's no formula up here. So make sure that if you do that, you drag it down. You kind of just drag this formula down so that it covers that formula as well. That's something to just note, just in case you do it that way. But besides that, now we have, this is a calculated column. Sometimes I'll make like a formula column gray so people know that not to type anything in here because it's a formula. Okay, so let's say I want 10% all the way down. I'm going to fill this up as 10%. Okay, now the next step we want to do is, let's see, we want to do some formatting to make it alternating colors so it's easier to read, and maybe some conditional formatting on this, and then kind of format some of these colors. So I'm going to highlight all of this, and I'm going to change it to, let's say, this color here, and then I'll make the font white just so it looks a bit better. I'm going to middle align it, and then I'll probably add some white bordering here just so it looks a little bit better. That's kind of an ugly black. Just go full black. Okay, now if you want to add alternating colors so it's a little bit easier to read, go to Format, Alternating Colors. Okay, so just close headers and then just hit done. I don't know why it took away the colors, but just make the color black again. So now it is alternating colors again. Okay. Now the next thing we want is some conditional formatting so that if whenever we, let's say it's delivered, it's going to be green. If it's processing, it'll be red, and in transit, it'll be yellow. So you can look at it at a glance and see what's going on here. Oh, I forgot to add in the drop downs for lead source. So data validation, drop downs, and lead source. If you know how to do all this data entry stuff, feel free to skip ahead. I'll have timestamps so you can go to just straight to building the dashboard. Okay. So that part is done. Now let's do some conditional formatting. So click on the column that you want to have conditional formatting. Let's go to Format, Conditional Formatting. And then we're going to apply this to the entire range of M. So M2 all the way down. And then you're going to do a custom formula under Format Rules. And then we will say, M2 to M equals processing, well, in quotation marks, processing. And then let's make this color. I'm using my custom colors. I'll show you guys how to do this. It's better to kind of have like a palette so that your dashboard looks a bit more professional. Hopefully with your brand's colors. So we'll do processing will be that color, and then hit, let's see, let's add some dollar signs here just to lock this in, just so it's a little bit safer. Hit done. Well, you don't have to hit done actually. Hit add another rule, and then just change that word in the quotation marks to the next status, which is in transit. We'll make this color maybe that color, and then hit add another rule. And now we'll do this one, be some sort of green. Whoops. In transit should be delivered. And then let's make this some sort of green and hit done. Okay, everything looks good now. So what this does is every time we do in transit, processing, and delivered, it'll automatically update. Perfect. Okay, so let's see what else there is to do on the data entry side. So yeah, this looks pretty good. Now whenever we get a new sale, I guess this first column is a start date, right? And what we want is data validation so that it has to be a date that's entered in. So the way that you do this is you highlight this all the way down, just like before, data validation. But this time, click under criteria, change it to a date, and just is valid date, and hit save. Now, whenever you double click into this, it's going to have a calendar. You can just select the date. We can select, let's see, the client name. Let's just put Jan. No, put random addresses. Select the salesperson. Type in the sale amount, the percentage, the product, processing, inbound call, and perfect. So that's how you do a set of data entry, basically, okay? Another thing that you might want to do on these types of sheets is group some columns. So let's say that you don't always want to see, the address, the city, the state, and the email of the client name, right? You can just highlight all of these columns, right click it and hit group, and then there'll be a little addition or subtraction sign here, and it'll hide all those columns, and you can just toggle back and forth, right? So let's say, some of these can be grouped just to make it a little bit easier to look at. Whoops. Do it this way, just so you kind of save some columns, because you don't always need to see some of this information. So that's how you group columns. Okay, so now let me hide some of this. Okay, let me move some of this over. So I'll put all my new stuff over here towards the end, okay? So the next step now is going to, I guess, start to build this dashboard, right? So let's create a new tab, and then we will call it Dashboard V2. Now, for a dashboard, the first thing you want to do is, I guess we can kind of add in some queries, right? Now, this is going to be using the query formula. Now, I went over this in the last video, but let's kind of go over it in more detail so that we can kind of get some good queries going. So let's say the first thing we want to do is we want to see the sale month. We want to see our number of sales, our average sales, and our total sales by month, right? If you look into here, you'll see the formula is written here. But the first thing we need to do is add a calculated column. So what this is, if you look at my original sales data tab, it's all of these columns over here. And let me show you why we need to do that. So let's say we want to grab, we basically want to group all of these all of these sales by the month, right? So let's call this the month column. So the month here. I don't know why this is showing up. Okay, so let me make all of this blue. And then I'll add some bordering here. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to use the sale date and tag this entire row as the month of March of 2020. And the way that I do that is I use the date formula. So the date formula, and then I use the year. So what you need to do is enter in the year, the month, and the date, right? So I enter in the year of A2 to build this new date, and then the month of A2. And then I just always use 1. So it's always going to show the first of that month, right? So if I drag this all the way down, you'll see here 3/1, March 1st, 2021, December 1st, 2021. So if I hide this, you'll see that it correlates correctly. Now let's have this show as only the month and the year. So let's highlight that column, go to format, go to number, and then choose this one. So it's going to show as the month, just like this. The thing is, if you go to the very bottom, it reads empty rows as December of year 3799. So what we want to say is if this is filled in, then apply this formula. So it's another if formula. This is a pretty good formula to kind of know very well. So I'm going to say if A2 equals 2 quotation marks for blank, comma. If it's true, then comma again. It's just basically leave it empty. And then this formula falls in the value if false. And then I just hit enter. And then I drag this formula all the way down, and now you see it's going to be empty because this is empty. Okay, so now that we have this month column here, we can select it in our query formula, right? So going to the dashboard now, I'm going to type in equals query. I'm going to select the data. Whoops, I messed up. I hit enter by accident. So query, sales data V2. I'm going to highlight all this data. I'll highlight it all the way to the very end actually. So A1 to Z, comma. In quotation marks, I'll type in select. So now I have a P column, which is the month. So I can select P and then comma. I want the number of rows that are basically, right? So the number of sales amounts. So I'm going to type in count I. You can use any column, but I'm just going to use column I. What this is going to do is it's going to count every time there's something in I, it's going to count it as 1, right? And then comma, count I, and then I want the average of the sale amount, so average I, AVG, comma, now I want the sum of I, and then group by. Now you have to group it by whatever's in the select, except for anything that is aggregated. Aggregated means anything with a formula that's like summing it up or averaging it or counting it. So in this case, only P. So I'm going to group by P and then end it in quotation marks and close it. Now you'll see what it does is it groups it by the month, and it tells me the total number of rows with a number in each month, the average of that in each month, and then the total sale amount. So that looks kind of like this, right? Or this is the weekly one. Now that looks kind of like this, right? But let's kind of format it a little bit better. So going back here, you see it has this empty row, and the reason it has this empty row is because this data set is going all the way down from A1 to the very, very bottom, right? And you'll see down here there's all these empty rows, and we wanted to ignore these rows. So the first thing we're going to add is a where clause. Now, by the way, with the query formula, everything goes in this order. Now, you're always going to have a select, right? And sometimes you'll have a where, whatever, but you basically, whenever you use these, you have to use it in this order. So the where comes after the select, the group by comes next, the pivot, the order by, the limit, the offset, label, format, and options. In this tutorial, I'm only using the ones that I checked. So I'm not using a pivot, I'm not using offset, I'm not using format or options, but maybe in a future video, I'll use that in the query formula. But so this is the order that it has to be in, okay? So I'm going to add in a where clause. So as you see here, the where comes after select, but before group by, okay? So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say where column A, which is the sales date, where column A is not empty. So basically just ignore all empty rows, right? So before the group by, I'll type in where A is not null. Now that's just something you need to memorize. Is not null is basically how you say is not empty. So now it's just going to select all of this where A is not empty. And now that line disappears. Now another trick I went over in the other video is how to organize this, because this is kind of confusing to read, right? And it's going to make it look a lot harder than it is. So click on before each, what do they call this? Before each clause, it's called a clause. Before each clause, just basically press Option Enter, and it'll bring it to a new row in this. And this is going to make your query look so much easier and like less intimidating, right? So now it looks pretty normal now. Okay, so now we have that. The next thing we want to do is we want to use the label clause, which will change the name of this, because right now it's called however you grouped it. So it says count sale amount, because that's the name of the column, average sale amount, and sum sale amount. But that's kind of ugly. So the label goes at the very end. It goes after the group by. So I'm going to hit Option Enter, label. Now you're going to basically, whatever you selected, you have to use the exact text. So let's say I want to change count I, label count I, and then you hit a space, okay? And then you use a singular apostrophe to wrap it. So let's say I wanted to call this one number of sales, like that. Now it's going to change this name to number of sales. Now if I want to change average I, then I hit comma, average I, average sale, and then put apostrophe, and then same thing, sum I, I'm going to call this total sales, enter. Now it looks a lot prettier. Now the next clause I want to add in is order by, which comes before label. You'll see here, because I want to order this by the month, but I want to order it descending, so the latest month is at the very top, right? So before the label, I'm going to type in, well, let me show you some couple of errors, okay? So let's say I added it at the very bottom. So I'm going to type in order by P is the month, right? P, and then I type in DESC. That means descending. I'm going to get an error, and it says unable to parse encountered order at line 6. Now what this means is wherever it says encountered a certain text, that's where the error begins. So it says it encountered this order when it was expecting something else, which basically means that text shouldn't be there. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to cut it, and then I'm going to add it here instead, order by descending. If I deleted the DESC, it's going to automatically order it by ascending. Now I can order it by anything I want. I can order it by sum I, which is going to be total sales, descending. Now the highest sales is going to go first, right? But like I said, this one I want to order it by P, descending. Okay, so you can basically read this out quite logically. Now let's see what else we wanted to do with this dashboard. With this particular query. Okay, so that's pretty much it, except for adding in a date filter, which I will do very soon. Okay, so let's move this down a bit. So I'm going to add in a few more rows. I can just highlight this and bring it down here. Okay. Let's say now, and then let's say I want to format this. Okay, so I'm going to grab these two and highlight it all the way down. And then let's bring it all the way up here. I'm going to change this to the dollar amount so that you can actually see the dollar. Let me delete some of these rows because I'm not going to need this many. Just delete all of these rows here. Okay, and let's see, the next thing I wanted to do now is I want to write a couple of other queries, except now I want it to have, I want to do it by status and referral channel and things like that. So it's essentially, once you write one query out, it's so easy to just copy and paste it, right? And let me show you what I mean. So going back down to my new dashboard, I'm going to enter here. I'm going to take this entire query, and then let's say I want to put this one here. I'm going to see where I put it. Okay, so I put it down here at H30. So I started everything at row 30 last time. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start everything at row 30. So it looks exactly like it. Okay, and then I started this one at H30. So I'm going to just copy the same exact query, right? And let me show you how easy it is. So this one now is by H10. So I put it in H10, it's by status, okay? But it's the same metric, so this is why we can copy it. So let's go to the dashboard. H10 is where I put it. You can put it wherever you want, doesn't really matter. Okay, now if I go to the sales data, the status is M, right? Right now I'm grouping it by P, which is month. Now let's say I change this. I change the P to the M. So now I'm saying select M, and whatever you change in the select, you always have to change it in the group by as well as the order by. If I press enter now, it's still going to work technically. Let's see. Okay, so it says column and order must be in select. This is because order by P is here, but there's no P in the select. You can only order it by something that's in the select column. Okay, so I can order it by M, count I, average I, or sum I. So let's change this to M descending. That just means it orders it by status alphabetically. What I probably want to order it by from now on is by total sales descending, so I can see the highest sales first. So I'm going to change this to sum I. Cool. So now I have this here, and all you're going to basically do now is just kind of copy and paste some of this stuff, right? So now this one is by salesperson. So I started this one at cell H30. So salesperson, I'm just going to copy the same exact one, put it wherever I want to put that query, and then salesperson is column H. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to change it, all the M's to H basically, just twice. Okay, see how easy that is? And then I'm going to do it 2 more times because now I have referral channel and leads, referral channel and product type, referral channel and product type, referral channel and product type. Referral channel is column, well, it's lead source, so column N, wait, referral channel and lead type on product type. Whoops. Okay, product type. Okay, so lead source is column N, product type is L. So N and L. So I'm just going to change this one to N. Okay, and then I'm going to change this one to L. Okay. Now you'll see I have my 4 queries here, right? And then I can change these ones to dollars, these ones to dollars, these ones to dollars. Now make sure that you might want to format it all the way down, because if you add more product types, then it's not going to show up in the proper format. Okay. Okay, so this is kind of the skeleton of our dashboard. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to add in a couple of charts, right? Now if you see here in the dashboard, every chart is the same except for this one, right? So let's start by adding in the sales by month. So let's go to the dashboard. Obviously a dashboard looks a lot better without grid lines, without these little gray lines. So go to view and hit grid line so it goes away. Now to add in our first chart, let us highlight all the way down just in case there is a bunch more data, and then just hit this chart over here or go to insert and hit chart. Now we want to make this one I guess a line chart works. But all we really want is number of sales and total sales. So go to series, go to customize and go to series, or go to setup, I guess. Chart style, setup. Okay, here it's going to automatically take whatever you highlighted. I'm going to delete average sale. Use row aggregate. So let's see. Customize. Aggregate seems to make it look like it shows all of the months here. So let's do that. It's going to aggregate it by month. It's going to add it up by month. And what's cool is you can click on certain elements of these charts and you can go directly to that setting. So let's say you want to change the title to number of sales versus total sales by month. It's kind of long, but so I guess I'll just call this sales by month. Okay. And you can change all the fonts. I changed the theme settings earlier. I'll show you guys how to do that in a bit. Okay, so let's kind of customize this chart so it looks a bit better. So go to customize, go to series. Series means these little lines here. And then let's change number of sales to the right axis so that it can actually show properly. Okay. You can have data labels, which might be a bit messy. You can show a trend line, see how everything is trending, all things like that. And then let's see. I'm going to delete this because you don't really want that there. It just takes up space. We know that it's by month, sale by month. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. Let's see how I had it here. Oh, I added some of these like data points. So I can click here and then point size, make it like a 2 point, maybe like a 5 point. Do it for this one as well. Just do like a 5 point. Oh, and then one thing is we need to reverse the order because if you see here, since we descended this one, since we ordered this by the latest month first, we need to change the order of this. So let's go to horizontal axis and click on reverse axis order. So now it's in the proper order. Okay, so now let's drag this over here. I think I had some more space on this side. Oh, I guess not. Oh, I know I did. I did have a column A. Okay, so I'm going to add in, just so it's not so close to the very edge here. It looks kind of bad. I also want to change the background of this. It looks a bit better. So I had this color, which was a custom color. So what I did was, so you can just highlight everything, change the color here to custom. Now it's always a good idea to use a kind of coherent color palette for your dashboard just so it looks a bit more professional. Don't just use a bunch of random colors. They have certain theme colors that you can use so that everything is a bit more coherent. You can kind of just select a theme. I have a custom theme. I just kind of Googled like a certain palette. I just recommend you use like a palette so that all the colors kind of match. So these are my theme colors. What you can do is you can go to format, theme, and then just click customize, and you can just add in like the accents of everything, and then you can just change it to whatever you want, like a custom color. You can use like the hex codes. And then what it's going to do is whenever you click on the color, there's always going to be your colors here, you know, or like your custom colors here, just to make it a bit easier. And I changed the font as well. It looks a bit more like officey, so the show, so I made it that. Okay, so that is one thing. And then it looks like I had all of this table area white, so it stood out a bit. I like the way that looks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this section white just so that it pops out a little bit. This is all up to you. This is just how I decided to do it. But yeah, I'm going to kind of skip this part a little bit. Okay, so that part is done. Now the next chart we want to add is going to be these pie charts. Or you know what? I'll do that later on because you guys kind of know how to do that. Or I guess I'll do it now, so all the charts will be in the same chapter. Okay, so let's add in some of these charts here. So just highlight all of this data in case it comes down here. Go to chart. And then we'll change this to a pie chart. And that's basically it. Number of sales. But let's say I want this one instead to be, so let's do I10. Okay, so what you can do, they make it real easy now. Just click on this and just change the total sales. Go to customize, pie slice. Let's see, pie chart. Slice label, I want the percentage to show. And then text color can be white or auto. Auto is probably better, so they can decide. Okay, perfect. So this is it. Pretty straightforward. And you'll basically do this for all of them. So you can quickly see what is going on here. So you basically repeat that same process for everything, okay? Now, the next step we want to do is let's format some of this so it looks a bit better, and then let's add in the scorecard, and then finally we'll get to the filters, okay? So the filters are kind of the most difficult part, so let's get to that towards the end. So I'm going to spend some time adjusting some of this stuff. So let's make this one black, and then change these border colors. And let's format this to the middle, and then we'll make this font like a 12. You know, I'm kind of lazy, so I'm just gonna highlight this. You can just highlight this exact stuff. Hit this paint thing to paint format. I'm going to go to my dashboard and just click it here. And it's going to basically format it to look just like that. And then I can just do that all the way across. So much easier. Format and format. Perfect. I should just do that with this as well. Format. So I'm going to copy all of this stuff. Okay. Okay, looks pretty good. Now let's get to the filters, okay? So let's kind of add in a start month, end month filter. So what we have here is, so where did I put that? I put that in starting in cell D2. So I'm gonna have this open in a different screen. So starting in D2, I had something called start date and end date, or maybe it was start month, end month. So set start month, end month. Now what this does is this allows you to control this entire dashboard based on this date selection, right? So what I want this to show is I want them to be able to click on this and then show them all the months that are available. But I want to have it show in the right order. So if I highlight both of these and I go to data validation and I go to my sales data and I just do the month column. So from P2 all the way down and I hit save. Go to my dashboard. Let's make this white so it stands out. If I click here, all of these months are just like in random order, right? It's in whatever order this is in. So what I actually want is I want to have a list to refer to where it's all of these months in order. So I'm gonna go to my drop downs. I'm gonna create a drop down option called month, and then I'm going to type in equals sort unique. I'll go to my sales data. I'm gonna highlight, oops, messed that up. Okay, equals sort unique. Go to my sales data. Oops. And I'm basically going to highlight from P2 all the way to P. What this does is it creates a sorted unique list of everything in this column P, right? Now what I can do on my dashboard is I can refer to that for my drop-down menus, data validations, and then now I'm going to go to sales data, and then, whoops, I'm going to go to drop-down. I'm going to highlight all of this to the very bottom, I2 to I, hit save. Now when I go here, it's going to show up like this. Now unfortunately it's going to show up like showing the first of the date. Even if I change my drop down options here, even if I change the format here, it's still going to show up in my drop down, but that's not too difficult, you're right, to know that 1/1 equals January and so forth, right? So I'm going to select some dates in here. Now the question is how to apply this into this formula, right? So there's a kind of like a certain syntax that you need to use in order to make this work. Oh, by the way, let me change this format at least to a number and this. Okay, number. So it's only going to show the year and the month, so it looks a little bit better. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to say in this query formula, we're going to say where column P, which is the month, is in between these date ranges. So it's only going to pull in the rows that are in between this date range. And the way that you do that is you type in and. So whenever you have multiple where clauses, you type in and P is the month column is, let's see, it's greater or equal to E2, right? In order to do a reference, you're going to have to, okay. You basically have to use this exact text, right? Either literally type in the word date to basically let the formula know that you're using a date, 3 quotation marks, the and text, and then the cell, and then type in this exact same thing. Now, if you have, I'm going to have a cheat sheet in the query reference tab where it has this type of stuff that you can just copy and paste it. But you can just look at this screen and you'll see it. And then I'm going to change this to E2. So what this says is it's saying only select where A is null and where P is greater or equal to the date that is in E2, right? So if I just hit enter here and then I select, let's say I select October 2021, it's only going to show all the dates that are greater than October 2021, right? What I want to do is I want to say and where P is also less than or equal to this, which is an E3. So I'm literally, it's super easy once you get it down once. I'm going to copy and paste everything from and over. And I'm going to say and P is less than or equal to everything in E3. See, super easy. Now it's only going to show this. So now you basically have it. Now I can filter it by month. Now in order to add it all to here, look how simple it is. I'm literally going to take everything from the and, I'm going to copy it, and I'm just going to add it here. So once you write the queries one time, it's so easy to just add it into everything else. So where A is not null and. So now you'll see if I select, it's going to automatically refresh everything. See, look how simple that is. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to add in some filters, a filter by a specific agent or status or lead source, right? So under cell H2, I'm going to type in agent, status, and lead source. And then for the agent one, I'm going to have a data validation, a drop-down list. I'm going to go to drop-downs, all of my agents or salespersons, hit OK. And then here for my statuses, if I go to sales data, if I go to drop-downs and status, if I go to my dashboard, my lead source, same thing. So this is just to create a drop-down menu for all of this stuff. Okay, so go back to my dashboard. I'm going to make this white so it stands out a little bit. So, okay, now let me show you how this would normally work, right? Let me show you my little trick to make it work even better. So the way that this normally works is, let's say the agent column is column H, right? So normally in the query formula, what you would do is, so we have all these ands here. It might be a good idea, depending how many where clauses you have, sometimes to put your ands on different ones so you can read. This is even easier to read, right? So what you want to say is where H equals, now when you're referring to a text, to a cell reference in the query column, this is how you do it. 3 quotation marks, 2 and signs, and 3 quotation marks. And in between this and sign, you're going to put in the cell reference, in which this case is I2. So what this does now is you'll see that, you know, if I select Jim Halpert, it's going to update, right? So if I select Dwight Schrute, it's going to update it and show only, filter and only show Dwight Schrute's data. That's basically how you do it. It can't be 1 quotation mark. This is for this is only for numbers, I think. But yeah, so that's basically how you do it. And this is how I used to do it in the past. So like this, right? Now the only issue with this, if you do it this way, is what if this is empty? Now it's going to say no data. And what I used to do is I used to have a bunch of if statements of the same exact query. If this one is empty, use this query. If not, use this query. But I've learned a lot since then, and now let me show you guys a really, really cool trick to make this work even when you want it, when this is empty, okay? So what you want to do is go to the sales data tab, and we're going to create another calculated column, right? Now, what I want this calculated column to do, I'm pretty impressed with myself on figuring this out, because I just figured this out kind of recently. But if you look at my old sales data tab, agent month filter is true. So it says true all the way down, right? But then if I go to my old dashboard and I select an agent, let's say I select Dwight Schrute, and I go back to my sales data, it's only going to show up true on the Dwight Schrute rows. So where is the salesperson? So Dwight Schrute, it's going to show up true, but then everything else is going to be empty. So basically what I'm doing is I'm going to call it true if their agent is being selected, and if it's empty, then everything is going to be true. And then what I'm going to say is I'm going to say to this query, in this query, I'm going to say only select where this column is true. So I'm going to call this agent filter, okay? I still don't know why it's doing this, to be honest, why it's changing it to this color. So annoying. Okay. So the goal here is to get it to say true if this is empty, everything's going to say true. Otherwise, if there's something in here, then it's going to say true only on this agent. So let's see how I did this. I did this with an if formula, if one, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So what I'm going to say is equals if I'm going to go to this dashboard, if dashboard I2 equals blank, then true. Otherwise, okay, it's true. So that's the first step. And then I'm going to bring this all the way down. And then, oh, whoops. Okay, a very important thing here, okay? I need to hard code and reference this with a $, which means it's only going to stay at I2. Because otherwise, if I drag it down, it's going to make it I3. So it's very important. Okay. So now it's all going to be true, and it's going to pull everything. Okay. Now let me check back quickly against this formula, against my old formula. Right, so monthly dashboard equals H2, then true. Okay. Now the next step is, so this is if that's agent filter is empty, then just mark it as true. However, if it's not, so this is the value if false. If it's false, I'm going to go back to this dashboard. Whoops. Okay. However, if it's not, why can't I? Okay, if it's not, I'm going to put in another if this selection equals, back to my sales data. Jesus, I don't know why this is being so difficult. If it equals H2, then true. Otherwise, it's empty, and then hit enter. So, and then let me hard code the reference to H2, to I2 in the other tab. So what this says is if this is empty, then make it true. But if this is not empty, then check and see if this matches this, right? And if it does, then mark it as true. If it doesn't, then leave it empty. So this is basically how we're going to do this, okay? And then, okay, so let's say now I delete this selection here. I go to sales data. You'll see it's all going to be marked true, right? And just stay with me here. Now the only problem is that it's also going to mark all of these empty rows as true. So what we're going to say is, this one's really easy. If A2 is empty, then leave it empty. Otherwise, use this formula. Now this formula works perfectly. Now, what I'm going to do in this formula is I'm going to say, let's see what column that is. So that's now column Q. It's called the agent filter, okay? And then I'm just going to add in another where clause that says and Q equals true. 1 second, and Q equals true. And hit enter. And hit enter. Now it's not working. Let's see why it is not. Q equals true. Sales data V2 dashboard. Oh, because I had, wait. So let's see what's wrong. It's probably good to troubleshoot this live so I can show you guys what's going on. And H equals, oh, because I left my original, the example I was showing you guys, that was wrong. Okay, so Now this filter is going to work. If this is empty, it's going to still show everything because everything here is true. If I select an agent now, let's say Andy Bernard, it's only going to show Andy's data because it's only going to mark this as true. So we're basically using this column as a filter, and that's kind of a really cool thing of the query formula, right? So now we just want to have to do the exact same thing, but with the status and the lead source, right? So it's I3 and I4 for status and lead source. So we'll call this one status filter and lead source filter. I do not know let me fix what's going on here because this is really annoying. Why is it doing this? Is it the alternating colors? This is so weird. I've never seen it do this before. Okay, whatever. Okay, so anyways, this is so ugly. Okay, so now we're going to do the exact same thing. So you can just copy this exact same formula, enter it in over, except now for status filter, it is not going to be, it's going to be, instead of I2, it's going to be I3. So let's change it all to I3. And then we're going to say if I3 is equal to not H2, this one is status, so the status column is M to M2. Okay, I'm going to bring this formula all the way down. So now if you go to the dashboard, if I select a status called in transit, go to the sales data, only the in transit ones are going to be marked as true, right? So let's go back to the sales data here. Copy the same exact thing, but now instead of I3, we're using I4, and then we're going to say if it's equal to the lead sources column M. And I4 is where the drop-down menu is on the dashboard, okay? So I'm changing all the M's to, okay, perfect. Now I'm gonna pull this all the way down. Okay, and then now if you select this, inbound, only the inbounds are gonna be true. So now we're gonna add another where clause where R equals true and S equals true, okay? So let's go back here. Where Q is true and R equals true and S equals true. Now you're probably asking why there's not quotes around true or like an apostrophe, like how if we ever want to reference any other text in the query formula, it's usually has to have like a quotation around it. And that's because the words true and false are special cases. They are like Boolean metrics, I guess. And then those are kind of like the only words that can be used, true or false. And you can honestly use anything you want here. You can make it say yes or no, and then you can say as long as it equals yes or no. But I think for yes, you'd have to type in either a quotation mark with an apostrophe probably. Yeah, you type it in with one apostrophe, okay? So it doesn't have to be true. That's just what I use just because these are like special word phrases, I guess, but you can also use like yes, no, but you just have to add quotation marks into them if you're referring to them inside of a formula. But if you see here, yeah, now it's going to work, right? And then now we just have to add in this where clause, basically, all these three ands into each of these. So you see how easy this is. Okay, so see how ugly this looks? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all my ands on different rows. This is just going to make it look way more organized. And then just add that in. Look how simple. And this is honestly like a really cool trick. It'll really help you guys with understanding the query formula and just how to manipulate sheets in general. Okay, super easy. Let me do some selections just so I can see it change. It's more satisfying. Okay, where, then I'm gonna and this. Same thing here. So yeah, I hope you guys agree that if you guys just organize this better as you go, it's going to be so much easier to maintain, right? Okay, so that's pretty much it. Now, that's pretty much the bulk of the heavy work, right, now that we've done for this. Now, there's a couple more aesthetic things I want to do. So let's say I want to add in the Dunder Mifflin logo. I would probably take, just take any image basically, and then just save it. Save image as, download, and then you want to insert an image. I always do image over cells for like logos, not in a cell. Now this is to help make your logo just look, your dashboard look a lot more professional, and just something that is a real easy win. Now I chose a bad logo for some reason, but I think you get the idea. So something like this. You of course want to maybe bold this a little bit, maybe right align this so it's right up into the box. Same here, right align this. Okay, so the next important thing that we want to add is kind of this little scorecards or call out section, right? And this is important for if you just want to at a glance show some important metrics. Okay, so I definitely recommend that you guys do this. So let's go into the dashboard again, and let's start at C. Let's start here at C6. Okay, so we're going to put number of sales here, average sale here, and total sales here. Now I am going to make this all black just so you can see this right away. What color did I use? Okay, so I use this color. Okay, it looks a lot better to me now. And then I'm going to make all of this text in of here white. Then let's bold this, and then I want to make this a bit smaller. Okay, so this part is pretty straightforward. So no matter what your most recent month is going to be, in this case cell E31, right? So this one is literally just going to be an equals a cell reference to this, equal to this, and equal to this. So that's pretty easy. So if I were to change this to September, it's going to reference this cell, right? And then for these ones, it always looks better if it's center aligned, and you're going to want to make this text bigger. Let's make it 16. Let's make sure that we wrap it, and then let's get rid of the decimal points because this is just kind of like an overview. I guess we should middle align this too so it matches up. Okay. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna make sure that this row is, okay, perfect. So now we have the main scorecards, right? And then for here is just another cell reference. So I'm going to reference whatever is here, September of 2021, and then this one. Now what I want to show now is a comparison against the previous month, right? So I guess I can just reference this one. Now the formula for percent change is new minus old divided by old. So let's just do equals the new number, which is always going to be this number, minus the old number divided by the old number. And let's make it a percentage, 33%. And then I can just literally copy and paste it over here, and it's going to just reference the correct cells. So that is basically how you do that. Okay, now let's say you added, let's say we select March of 2020. It's going to give me these ugly errors, right? So in order to fix that, just to wrap it in a quick if error. If there's no error, leave it blank. Whoops, I misspelled that. If error, value, if error, empty. If error, comma, just leave it empty. Well, actually, I don't want to leave it empty. I want to put a dash. So it shows a dash. Because it looks better to me. Okay. So let's say we selected a different month. Now let's do some conditional formatting again to make this look a bit better. So I'm going to say if this cell is greater than 0, then I want it to be green. Okay, and then I'm going to add another rule, and I'll say if it's less than 0, then I want it to be red. I'm going to use rred. And then I'll say if it's equal to 0, then I'll have it be this little yellow color. Okay, so let's see make sure this works. Everything is increasing. Where are the decreases? It's crazy. Okay, perfect. So here are some decreases. I'm not sure if these colors stick out enough, but I don't love these colors, but whatever, you get the idea. Okay, so that's how you do that part. Let me adjust this up, and then now we want to add some totals. So the totals are quite straightforward. I'm just going to sum everything. I'm going to sum everything to the very bottom. I can just pull this over. Okay. That's how it's going to look. And then I'll call this totals. And then I will make this black as well. And I'll make the font white. And then let's add some nice bordering so it looks just like everything else. Then let's middle align this. Oops, and let's add a border to the bottom as well. Okay, so the next important thing I want to add is a sparkline chart. Now, sparkline charts are a great way of just kind of adding some more visualization. So let's do a sparkline, and then the data will be here. And then I'm going to add in a chart type, comma, bar. So everything is separated by these semicolons, okay? And then I want to have the max of this bar chart be the max of this entire column, just so it's going to compare it against this entire column, right? So it's going to take this number and then it's going to basically compare it to see where it's at of this entire column. So this total here is 4 million, and then 158 is the max. Okay, I'm sorry. It's comparing against the highest number, so that the max of this entire column is 257,000. So that's the target, right? That's where this number is, and then 158,000 is about a little bit over half of this, right? Just so you can see where it stands compared to the highest one. I want to lock in this 31 reference, and then I can just pull this all the way down. Again, you get these little ugly errors. The if error is a good formula to always learn how to use comfortably. If there's an error, I'm just going to leave it blank. Okay, now this orange color doesn't quite match the theme of what I'm doing. You can also change the color, okay? You can change the color basically after any semicolon. I'm going to type it color 1, and then you can literally type in a comma. You can even just type in blue if you wanted, and it's going to make it blue, right? But that doesn't really match too. I probably want to use like an actual blue, so I have this little plugin here that I can pick a color palette, and it'll give me the hex code. So instead of in blue, I'm just going to put in the hex code, and it's going to change it to that. The reason why I put color 1 is because color 2 is going to be the negative of the bar. So let's say I copy this entire thing. If I make color 2, color 2. Okay, well, it's not working, but I'm going to do a follow-up on Sparklines where I'm going to show you guys exactly how to use all the Sparkline charts, because you can use line charts. This can be a line chart. This can be like a bunch of other different things. So you can actually do a lot with Sparklines. So just watch out for like my next video. It might be about Sparklines. But yeah, so this is basically what you want to do. I can just copy this formula, and then I can just paste it in here. But now instead of referencing LE31, I'm just going to reference L11, and then I want the max of L11 all the way until I think it's L25 or something. Oops, this is L11. Right. So that's basically what you're going to do. You're just going to copy these formulas all the way around. You know, now I'm going to do R11, and then from R11 until R25, and just bring it all the way down, pretty much. You might want to lock in these bottom numbers as well. So 29, so make sure you lock this in, because when you drag it down, there's going to be some errors. Cool. Okay. The last thing now is going to be adding in this color scale, right? So what you want to do is you want to highlight this. And the reason for adding this in is just to give another kind of like a visual aspect of this dashboard. So that when they look at it at a glance, it's not just a bunch of numbers, right? They can actually just kind of see which one is the highest number, because all these numbers can get a bit confusing. So go to Format, go to Conditional Formatting, go to Color Scale. Now, I pretty much always go from lightest to darkest. So I'm going to select from white to green. But instead of green, I want to choose one of my theme colors. So I'm going to choose, well, that's a bit too much of the same blues. I'm going to choose this one, right? And for this one, you can't just highlight it and then add another rule, because it's going to mess it up. If I do this and if I add another rule, it's just going to, and I can't just change the range to D, because it's going to combine all the ranges. And it's, well, actually maybe it does work. Okay, so I guess that does work. Add another rule, and then I'm going to go to C here. Okay, perfect. So now if I look at here, I can see that this month is the highest total sales because it's dark. This one's also quite high, highest average, and so forth. So this is pretty much how you build this dashboard. I would say the most important part of this entire video that I made was how to do these filters, right? That's kind of like a really good hack or good trick to pull in only specific data sets based on this formula here. One more thing I forgot to show you is how to make this a weekly dashboard as well. Now, this one is a little bit tricky. So I'm going to include a cheat sheet. If you guys want to buy this template, then there's going to be a cheat sheet to kind of give you some formulas, kind of some stuff I went over. But I'm just going to show you here in this video as well, okay? So you can just follow along in this video. What this is, it's basically the same exact thing, okay? You know how we added a month column? Now we're just going to add in a week column so that we can group the data by week. If this turns white, oh, geez, okay. So I'm going to call this week ending. So what this is now I'm going to group this by the week it's, and you can do it by anything, okay? So let's say this date here is March 17th of 2021. It's this date, right? Now it's up to you. It's up to you, March 17th, what you want to call that week. You can call it the first Sunday, the Sunday before, right? Which would be, you can call it the week of March 14th. I personally prefer to use the week ending date. It just helps prevent errors when you're kind of selecting things, selecting calendars, because it's going to select everything before that week, right? It just probably makes better sense to use the week ending, because when you select it from a calendar, it can get a bit tricky. If you, for example, if you were to select like the week before, you might miss some dates based depending on how your formula is built. So in this case, for March 17th, I'm going to call it March 20th. Okay. So it's basically March 17th belongs to the week ending in March 20th. If it's March 19th, same week. If it's March 21st, it belongs in March 27th. So I'm finding the next Saturday. Okay. So this is the formula for that. I have an entire sheet of these formulas depending on which day you want to find. So for example, I want to find the next Saturday. It looks something like this. Okay, you can either screenshot that or whatever you want to do. But it'll also be under the cheat sheet section. So I want to find the next Saturday. I just enter it in. I just changed the A2 to wherever my date is. In this case, it is A2, which is kind of nice. So like I said, it's March. It's March 20th, right? And it's going to just do this automatically. So that's a pretty cool formula. Just have to copy it in exactly like that. Okay, perfect. Now, for the weekly dashboard, it's literally going to be the exact same thing. Just duplicate this dashboard. So the week column is in column T, right? So now instead of grouping it by P, I'm going to group it by T. T, 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 T. See, now everything is, now I can see for the week ending in November 27th, 2021, I got this many sales. Super easy. Now, another thing you have to change is this drop-down menus. Now, same exact thing as what we did with the month, we want to do with the week. So equals sort unique sales data. I don't know why it's doing this, but sales data is in column T. So the drop-downs, I'm going to do T2 to T. Okay, now on the new dashboard, I'll call this weekly dash. Change this one to weekly dash drop downs V2, weekly dash start week and week. And then, whoops, now let's change this format back to an actual date format. Okay, so now you see here, it's the same exact thing. However, you're also going to need to add in these new filters, but referring to the new dashboard, okay? Because all these true statements are going to follow the original monthly dashboard, and you want to make it so that it refers to a different tab, basically. So that's basically all you need to do to have this weekly dashboard working. So that pretty much covers everything. So I pretty much built this dashboard back from scratch. It took me like an hour explaining it. Yeah, so this should save you a ton of time, because I remember when I was building this when I was first starting, it would take me literally like 6 to 8 hours trying to figure everything out. But yeah, you can just watch this video. Hopefully it shows you how to create a very professional looking dashboard. Feel free to purchase this template if you guys want to have something to follow along and support me. I'm going to be creating a bunch more videos from now on how to create dashboards on all sorts of Google platforms using Google Sheets, Data Studio, whatever. And I'm going to kind of do show a lot of the cool products that I've created using Google Sheets, and then hopefully you guys can kind of get an idea of what you guys can do. If you guys have any kind of questions or anything you guys want to see regarding kind of anything in the data, I work with anything in the Google Suite with data. If you guys have any questions about this, I work with very common ad platforms such as like Facebook ads, Google ads, analytics. I create dashboards for all that stuff. Amazon sellers, Shopify sellers. If you guys have any questions or anything you guys want to see, just let me know. Leave it in the comments below. Besides that, I have links below where you guys can book a consultation call if you guys want a custom project done. I do take on like some projects here and there. So if you guys want to reach out to me, just check out all the links below, okay? Thanks a lot, guys.